again. Thank you very much for joining me here on Movie Ninja. Today I'm talking about the Black Panther sequel, Wakanda Forever. I'm finally able to see this excellent film. This review will contain minor spoilers, so just be aware of that. But at the very start of this, I have to say that this is one of those rare examples where a sequel, for me, improves on the first installment. At the beginning of the film, Wakanda is in crisis after the untimely passing of King T'Challa. Shuri and the royal family are very much in turmoil, not just personally, but they also find themselves at odds with the international, political spectrum at this time. So, unfortunately, with the other nations of the world sort of harassing and investigating Wakanda without really any much conduct to, well, not only that, but they, without not just the eyes of the world, but they also have a mysterious rival empire that was unknown to most of humanity. And this is headed by Namor, who leads the underwater nation of Talokan. And among his people, he is referred to as Kulkulkan, as was mentioned in the trailer for this film. So after his brief and very blunt introduction to the royal family, he makes several demands. And, well, Queen Ramonda and Princess Shuri are not really ones to just allow this man, however powerful he may be, however powerful his nation may be, to simply command them to do what he wants. So, the main point of concern for Namor is the life of an American scientist in the character is Riri Williams, who is in the film she plays Ironheart, a technological prodigy, Wunderkind, that has developed equipment to detect vibranium in other areas of the world, particularly in the oceans. So one of the demands made is that because the nation of Wakanda has allowed a limited type of political sanctuary, so Namor feels that if this person is allowed to proliferate this type of technology, then it will also lead to incursions and invasions of his homeland, the oceans of the world. So, what happens is that the nations of Talokan and Wakanda come to a head. And yeah, I gotta say, the performances, a big theme in this is, of course, due to the untimely passing of Chadwick Boseman, the characters involved do not pretend like this loss doesn't have meaning. And so we do get to see very sorrowful, very deep and tender performances from a vast majority of the performing cast. And we also see for me, the performances are like a step up, a few steps, if I'm being honest. The action is very well measured, and the climax of this film, where you have the forces of Wakanda and the soldiers and warriors of Talokan facing off against each other, I really enjoyed this far more than I did at the very end of the first film. It just, I don't know why. When this film has it to where these Wakandan warriors and these Talokan, when they face off against each other, I don't know, it just had a different energy to it. I'm not entirely sure how to, well, mostly because the Talokan have several superhuman abilities. They have enhanced strength, durability, increased healing factor. There is a fight between Okoye and several of the Talokan warriors, and what should have been an out-and-out win for Okoye is a confusing catastrophe, because what, in theory, this Okoye is one of the top warriors of Wakanda. She's a general and holds a position with the Dora Milaje. So when it comes to Mortal Kombat life or death scenarios, she puts down, she doesn't just hurt her enemies, she goes to put them down. And for the Talokan warriors to just get up after the fact, oh boy. I also my man, Atuan, the right, one of the right hands of Namor is yeah, my man. He has a very M'Baku, the Talokan equivalent of M'Baku. He has that kind of energy and that intimidating vibe to him. Really, yeah, I also appreciate something that I think this production really embraced, is that there's somewhat of a divergence from the athletic aesthetic to warriors that the Talokan show, and I like that. I like to show, because even though, and people who have been following me, I apologize, it's going to be a really, really quick thing, but for those that have been following me know that I've been on a fitness journey and things like that. Fitness is more than just about, how slender your waist is, Now for some people it's that's my goal. I wanted to get it as lean and trim as possible. But being fit and being strong are not dependent on how low your BMI is, And when I see Atuan, it's yeah, man, really brings that, that big man power to, to the fight. So I really do appreciate that. I really do appreciate that that display of body diversity, physique diversity as well. So yeah, this is a film that is, to me, it exceeds the first film. There are several, there's not really a time. If I have to identify a con, because nothing is perfect. If I have to identify a con with the overall tone of the film, is that it is very much weighed down by the tragedy of the passing and the compromise of Wakandan culture and civilization from the loss of the heart-shaped herb. So we don't simply lose our prime character from the first film, but but Wakanda also loses one of their primary resources that factors into a lot of their culture, which is the heart-shaped herb. So, talking about these losses is something that, of course, it does weigh down the overall tone. While you're watching this film, you don't really feel happy or energized. It didn't have that same traditional good guy, bad guy sort of very, I have to say, traditional. Okay, I repeat myself. It didn't have that same feel to it. It was very sober. It was very down and melancholic throughout a vast majority of the film. But overall, like I said, the strength of the performances, the pacing, this is over 2 hours. I didn't even feel it. This is one of those where going from scene to scene, where the Princess Shuri is negotiating on behalf of Wakanda, and Namor is negotiating his position with her as to why he is taking extraordinary measures on behalf of his people. Usually in superhero movies, you really are just waiting from action scene to action scene, and you're just kind of waiting for the next action scene to happen. But I feel the story in and of itself was a very good follow-up. I like the concept overall that Wakanda is not at the top of the geopolitical pyramid anymore with the introduction of the Talokan civilization. I like that. So checks and balances. There we go. So the tone is a little bit sullen, for a majority of it. So it doesn't have that vibrant sort of like feel good superhero sort of like feel to it as the first film have. But I gotta say, the performances are better. The action is on par, and I really did prefer the climax of this. The climax of this reminded me in many ways of the climax of Matt Reeves' Batman, because you have characters that could easily give into the more negative aspects. It is easy to be angry, to sort of paraphrase, a maxim out of the Odyssey. It is easy to be angry. And so you have these primary characters that... Now, Namor, I gotta say, like, he is not a good guy. I feel like a lot of his reasoning for the actions that he takes are... Especially, like, some of his people criticize him for being too compassionate. I do not feel that he is compassionate. At all. So, I mean, like, he does work as an antagonist here. But at the very end of the film, to showcase two characters, or particularly, like, the new Black Panther, to show mercy, it reminded me in some ways of Matt Reeves and how his Batman has to, like, I would like for this to be a trend, because his Batman also showcased, like, well, okay, people have romanticized my vigilante-like violence, and they've turned it into something horrible and nightmarish. And for the same, whereas, like, Shuri, if she decided to take certain actions, we as the audience are, okay, you know what, this is your right. You have your enemy right where you want them. But she doesn't. And instead, the movie ends in a much more optimistic way. And also, like, let's be honest with it, because I think eventually Namor will also have his standalone film as well, or he'll be integrated into the larger Avengers storylines that are going to come in this next phase. So yeah, like I liked how the film ended. Not just the climactic battle, but I also like the themes of not forgiveness. I don't think that Shuri will forgive Namor for some of the things that he did in this film, but if only to maintain your humanity and to maintain your reason. I really do like that. I think that is a theme that we do see in superhero films, but the opportunity for superhero blockbusters usually is we have to blow up the bad guy, we have to eliminate them with extreme prejudice. And most of these supervillains, they just bring it on themselves. So I'm not going to be too much of a bleeding heart about that. But overall, I think I actually prefer this film, Wakanda Forever, better than the initial installment. I think it was very tasteful, the way that they managed the passing of Chadwick Boseman. I was concerned before seeing this that there would be a twist ending where T'Challa didn't pass away, and they had some actor, a completely different actor, play him just to maintain the status quo. Oh no, it's T'Challa. He just looks like a completely different actor because science, fiction, whatever. I am glad that they and it was a the salute to Chadwick Boseman. It wasn't just fan service. I do believe that it was an expression of like how, and they even mention in the film how Shuri was sad not only because of the passing of her brother, but he chose to suffer, and this is the way it was put in the film, suffer in silence. And from what we know, from what the Boseman estate mentions, like, why didn't he tell people about his illness beforehand? And that was his choice. That was his medical autonomy. That was his choice. He didn't want to, sometimes people feel like they protect others, by not telling them the more tragic aspects about themselves. But I'm not going to get into a discussion about Mr. Boseman's motives for his final months. I don't have the right to do that, and so I'm not going to do that. So there we go. Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace. But I give Black Panther Wakanda Forever a solid 10 out of 10. As I mentioned, this is one of those rare sequels that far exceeds the original film. So, those are my thoughts on Wakanda Forever. Thank you very much for joining me here on Movie Ninja. Have you seen the... I say that because I'm one of the last people on the planet to see the film. It was just made available as of the day of this recording on Disney Plus as of today. So I'm finally able to see it. So yes, I realize, have you seen the film? Just a general question. But what are your thoughts on it? What are things that you liked? What are things that you didn't like? Please let me know in the comment section. Thank you as always for joining me here on Movie Ninja. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.